Hey folks, thanks for stopping by and welcome back to my YouTube channel Czechoslovak Gun Stories. My name is Kuba and in today's episode we are not going to discuss any particular Czechoslovak firearm or the Czechoslovak firearms designer, but we'll talk about the Czechoslovak anti-Nazi resistance. If you have even the basic knowledge of the World War II and what happened, you probably have ever heard about the Operation Anthropoid. You also probably heard the story about two Czech paratroopers, or Czechoslovak paratroopers, Josef Gabčík and Jan Kubiš, who were dropped into the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia to eliminate Reinhard Heydrich. You most probably know that they succeeded. After all, there's plenty of movies that are actually focused on this act. However, you need to understand that the Czechoslovak resistance was much more active, and this was not the only success they achieved in the World War II. So, when the occupation of Czechoslovakia started in 1939, many of the Czechoslovak army soldiers and officers decided to flee the country and join the ranks of various allied armies, right? Like a French army, British army, or the Soviet army, even the Polish army at the very beginning of the war. However, there was also a group of soldiers that decided to stay here and fight the Nazi occupants from within. And one of the most, if not the most famous group, was called the Three Kings. In German, the Heilige Drei Könige, or in Czech, Tři králové. The Three Kings were three pre-war Czechoslovak officers: Staff Captain Václav Morávek, Lieutenant Colonel Josef Mašín, and Lieutenant Colonel Josef Balaban, who was the leader of the group. They were all a part of what was called Obrana národa. That was a large resistance movement, which translated to English means like the defense of the nation. And these three guys were very professional and successful in their activities because they were very strictly following the rules of espionage. They were very cautious. They were using disguises. They were changing their conspiracy flags very often, and so they did a lot of damage to Nazis actually. And today we're going to talk about some of their activities which you may not know about. Now, the activities of Three Kings can be divided between two types of resistance operations. First one, the early one, sabotages, and the sabotages were mainly done with explosives. One of the very clever thing they did was that they were hiding small amounts of explosives into the coal briquettes. They were actually masking the explosives to look like a coal briquettes, and then they smuggled them into the German trains that were actually aiming to the especially Eastern Front. Also, they smuggled these fake bricks to various offices and administrative buildings of the occupational forces, Gestapo offices, for example, and they're blowing them up. So that was one technique they were using. They were also planting bombs directly in Berlin so that the Germans knew that by invading Czechoslovakia, they didn't make the Czechoslovakia unsafe for the Germans, but also Germany directly. So they planted two bombs on 15th October 1939 right next to the police directory and the Ministry of Aviation. So these bombs exploded. However, even more interesting was the third bomb they planted on December 30th, 1940. This bomb was planted directly at the Anhalt train station because the resistance got information that a train with Heinrich Himmler was supposed to stop there at some specific time. And this bomb exploded as well. Unfortunately, Himmler's train was actually delayed, so he survived this attempt on his life. So it's a shame this didn't work out. However, the sabotages were not the only type of activity that the Three Kings were performing for the Czech resistance. They were also gathering intelligence, right? And for that, they had an agent known as A54. This was an agent known as Paul Thimmel, and he was a top-ranking Abwehr agent. Until today, we don't know if Paul Thimmel was a double agent, if he was playing for both sides or if he was actually preferring one or another. We don't know. What we know for sure, however, is that he passed via Three Kings also very, very important information that were passed to London via one of the radios that the Three Kings were running, and they were actually in touch with the exile government in London. And one of the information they passed, for example, were details regarding the Operation Zeeleuwe, which was, or it was supposed to be, the invasion to the Great Britain. So as you can tell, the Three Kings were a very effective group of the Czechoslovak resistance movement. However, apart from their serious activities, they were also mocking Germans, especially Gestapo. Now their activities were driving Gestapo mad. So mad that they even organized a group that was led by one Oskar Fleischer, also known as the Butcher. And this group's only task was to hunt down the Three Kings. And so the Three Kings were actually under a lot of pressure because the Gestapo was very, very skillfully infiltrating different resistance movements, gathering more and more information about them. However, they still kept doing their job, and they actually had also time to mock the Germans. So let's have a look at a couple of pranks they pulled on the Gestapo. Now, one of the pranks they pulled on Gestapo regularly was colportaging the illegal resistance movement newspaper known as Vboj directly to the headquarters of Prague Gestapo, regularly in disguise. And they said it was because they didn't want Gestapo to look for a fresh copy of the newspaper every week or whatever, so that they would be like harassing the Czech people. So they decided to deliver the fresh copy of the newspapers directly to the Gestapo. And well, I should say that the biggest joker of the group was Staff Captain Vatsaf Maravik. One of his pranks was that I mentioned Oskar Fleischer, the Butcher. That was the leader of the group that was looking for the Three Kings. And one evening, Vatsaf Maravik found out which is the favorite pub of Oskar Fleischer. So he went there in disguise, obviously, and asked Oskar Fleischer directly to light his cigarette. The very next day, Moravek sent Fleischer a letter saying exactly this. Oskar, you bastard. I made a bet with Machine and Balaban that I would light my cigarette from your cigar. The bet was 1,000 Czech crowns. I hereby inform you that I won the bet on Tuesday. Quit torturing the Czech people or it will cost you dear. We know everything about you, and you will not get away with it. Don't you ever forget that. Now, it is said that Oskar Fleischer was completely mad when he read this letter, and it actually evoked some of the paranoia in him, and he started picking up people randomly in the street because he thought that this is Morávek or that one looks like Morávek. He was interrogating these people only to find out that they indeed are not Václav Morávek. Another prank that Václav Morávek pulled on Oskar Fleischer was when Gestapo revealed one of their conspiracy flats, and well, they had to leave the flat quickly because Gestapo was already on the way, and Václav Morávek forgot one of his winter coats there. And Gestapo seized it, and Václav Morávek sent a letter to Oskar Fleischer saying that now he needs to move to some warmer climate because he lost his winter coat. Now, one thing about Václav Morávek that might be interesting for you, he was a pre-war Czechoslovak champion in the pistol shooting in the Czechoslovak army. And he was known to be always, at all times, carrying 2 loaded pistols, couple of spare magazines, and a Bible, because his motto said, I believe in God and my pistols. Oh, how badass is that, right? Anyway, so as I mentioned, the group was doing a lot against the Nazis. Unfortunately, I also mentioned that Gestapo and Abwehr and Sicherheitsdienst and whatnot, they were all very, very efficient and successful in infiltrating the resistance movement organizations. And so, unfortunately, in April 1941, Gestapo managed to arrest Josef Balaban. Only 1 month later, they also managed to arrest Josef Masin. That actually happened during the firefight with Gestapo officers when Josef Masin was covering Václav Morávek and the radio operator when they were escaping from a flat that was actually once again revealed by Gestapo. Both were unfortunately later executed. Unfortunately, Václav Morávek remained alone. However, he was still maintaining the radio communication bridge with London, and he was also in contact with the agent A54, Paul Thimmel, passing on the information he got from him. Unfortunately, in March 1942, Václav Morávek was shot dead during the firefight with Gestapo as he was trying to save one of his colleagues from the resistance, Václav Řehák, from the hands of the Gestapo officers. So, as you can tell, this is actually a very sad story because none of the three kings saw the end of the war, but their activities were vital for the Czech resistance movement as well as for the exile government in London and many other intelligence agencies all across the world because they were passing and sharing the information. So yeah, their work was very important, and today they are actually perceived as national heroes. In 1997, a Czech TV released a short series that was loosely based on the activities of the three kings. You probably notice that one of the characters, Václav Morávek, is carrying a pair of VZ-38 pistols in the series. This is not accurate, as we believe, even though we don't know for sure what weapons was Václav Morávek, Josef Masin, or Josef Balaban carrying, but we know almost for sure it was not a pair of VZ-38 pistols. They were there just because the filmmakers thought they look cool, but these guns were only released in 1938 or so. It's highly improbable that Václav Morávek would be familiar with VZ-38 pistols. Most probably he was using VZ-24 or VZ-27 pistols. So that's just for you to know that in the clips he's seen with the VZ-38 pistols, but we don't think this was what he was carrying actually. Anyway, guys, that's it. It was a sad story about three brave Czechoslovak resistance movement members who actually were very efficient in not only performing the acts of sabotage and espionage against the Nazi occupants, but also they were very successful in mocking Gestapo and Abwehr. And so they are now known as national heroes up here in the Czech Republic actually, and everybody knows their names. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. I hope you learned something new about the history of the Czech anti-Nazi movement. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel, like it. If you have any questions, remarks, whatever you would like to share with me or just help me with the YouTube algorithms, use the comment section down below. So thank you, and until next time.